Is your house making you depressed? Probably. Oh, hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker, Residential Sales Manager at ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 268. And I hope you guys are all having a good day. So, this episode should be a fun one. I actually did homework. The serendipity of my life and the universe amazes me some days. All right. I had a... In the morning, I wake up, drink my coffee, reboot the brain up, make sure all the systems are running, and tend to browse the internet there for about the first hour or so. And there's a Substack article that came on and was talking about basically the palette change of the world, the palette change of the universe. Would have sounded better right there. And I'm like, well, that's really interesting. So last night out to karaoke doing my little thing, and I mentioned this article to one of my friends and clients, and hopefully a viewer of this episode. I'm pretty sure she doesn't watch everyone. And she mentioned a reel on Facebook that she just saw talking about the palette changes. And boom, rabbit hole. Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss this episode. And answer the question, is your house making you depressed? Because it could be. It really could be. But first, we got to do our homework because how can you get any pudding if you don't eat your meat? So here we go. From the top, these are the numbers for March 25th, 2026. The actives this week are 25,506, up 158 from the week prior. All right, and our new listings are 2,480, down 161. Our contracts were 2,727, down 85, and our closings were 1,736. Coming soon to an MLS near you is a jackpot 777 new listings coming in. Our supply right now is at 105, still creeping up. Our demand is also creeping up to 78.3, giving us a Crawford report number of 83.1. Want to look at the various areas? Well, here are the various areas. Okay, Chandler is leading the pack, and trust me, Chandler's no fun to play with if you're on the buyer side. All right, it's just I've been down there like every weekend, and it's fascinating what's going on down there. All right, Fountain Hills, Phoenix, Gilbert, Tempe, Scottsdale, Glendale, Mesa, Paradise Valley, and barely Cave Creek are all in our sellers markets, with our balanced markets being Avondale and Peoria, and then we're into the dregs with the buyers markets of Goodyear, Surprise, Santan Valley, Queen Creek, Maricopa, and Buckeye. Who's our biggest loser? Cave Creek. Wow, they are so mercurial out there. They're always going one way or the other, and they always go big when they do. Our biggest gainer is Goodyear. Good for Goodyear. Okay, things are coming around out there. We're definitely seeing interest rates be interest rating. All right, I'm not going to quote you a number because I have no idea what it is this second. It seems to be sort of tied into the bond market, which seems to be sort of tied in whatever gets sent out on Truth Social at 1 o'clock at night. Seems to be spinning that one around, much like your gas prices. Normally, I don't have a problem showing clients a bunch of houses, but at $5 a gallon, driving out to see two houses just in case, yeah, it starts getting really annoying. But those particular clients I love because one of them quoted me to this term this week, which I will be using in the future. And we were discussing real estate, and she said, oh, yeah, and if I have to do that, I have to sign an ARA waiver. I was like, what's an ARA waiver? She goes, oh, it stands for Against Raised Device. Oh, my God, I'm so in love with this woman. Wow, I feel so seen and heard and recognized. Okay, they actually have an acronym for ARA. I know people, and usually it takes about 5 years or so before people actually start figuring out they need to listen to me. Looking at you, Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 9400. Well, I'm only on year 3 there. They're still trying to work it out. And I got some people out there who I've known since they were 19 years old, and I was 20 years old in college, who still haven't figured out to listen to me. And you guys who know him know who I'm talking about. So, anyways, but fun times, real estate's really rocking and rolling. I was doing numbers earlier this week looking at what our peaks was, and we do seem the last 2 years we've peaked either the last week of April or the first week of May for total amount of listings. The years before that, they tend to be peaking in November. Of course, that was still that whole COVID run-up thing. So since the interest rates hit 7, that's where the new shift is that the maximum amount of houses on there last week of April, first week of May, which means if you're not on by then, you're going to have a really, really bad time. And I subliminally sent that message out to about 2 other people right now on my board who I should have signs up in front of them, but they're just dragging their feet. So let's get back to the fun stuff. All right. So I'm reading this Substack article, and I'm going to heavily pull off of this thing. Substack was called The Good Citizen. Spoiler alert, a little bit on this, like a little warning. It's a good article. He does tend to get into the tinfoil hat conspiracies. All right. And no, it's not the Jews. It's the gays. All right. But yeah, he goes right into tinfoil hat conspiracy on why is this happening. Okay. But he does a pretty good job laying out what's going on and how it's impacting us. And so sometimes you just got to sit there, take the good information that you get from somebody and sort of apply that death of the author thing. You know, it's like, we like this result, but man, they had a couple little weird things going on in their lives. You know, remember that was there. But even a broken watch is right twice a day. So if you want to look him up, it's Good Citizen. You know, just because I link to him does not mean I approve of 100% of what he says. Okay, guys? So I read this article. And I was telling to a friend, she sends me over this morning the Harry Potter reel. And it's not a Harry Potter reel. What it is, it's an author talking about the new Harry Potter premiere and the new Moana live action. And he's discussing how the palettes are washed. All right. So you guys who aren't following the Potterverse, okay, HBO is re-releasing Harry Potter. They are refilming it. And they are basically going back to the well and just going all the way through the storyline again with new actors and actresses, right? New little kids playing the roles. But the palette, and what I mean by the palette is what the color is. Behind me is very, very monochrome. Okay, this is what I call freaking cubicle hell. Everything is beiges and grays. I got a little bit of green right here. Yeah, trying to do this. There we go. Right here from that tree that longtime viewers remember they cut down years ago because it used to be beautiful back there. Well, nature will find a way. It's coming back, bitches. All right. So we got that little tree. But other than that, the only color in this place is my shirt. All right. And my lovely complexion. So this is sort of, you know, this is what we mean by palette. This is what we mean by, you know, there's not a lot of color in this office. Right. So the human eye, okay, science class for you guys. All right, for you kids who fell asleep during biology, all right, I'm going to learn you up right now. All right. Human eye, off the top of my head, all right, has little receptor cells, photocells on the back of your eyeball that pick up the light from like that lamp right there, my fill light over here. All right, the light coming from your screen, all right, is entering your eyeball. And based on the wavelength of the light, okay, you guys do know light's a wave, right? Okay, if not, that's a whole different class. Just Ray says light's a wave, okay? All right, based on the wavelength of the light depends on which cell fires, telling your brain what color it is. All right. For you guys who really want to know and ever taken a trivia thing, there's 3 different of these things. All right. And it's red, green, and blue. Don't ask me why yellow's not in there. I don't go that deep into color theory. In my world, yellow, it should be yellow, but for some reason it's green. All right. So red, green, blue, which, and you guys remember RGB monitors? Same stuff. All right. So anyway, color theory and color therapy is the theory that you can impact your emotional state with color. And this has been pretty well researched, okay? I mean, they've been going way out of their way, okay, to figure this out. All right, this is pretty much accepted science at this state. Real science, not Obama science, right? This is accepted science, all right, that you can influence people's behavior and moods and motions and everything by color. Right? Red has an effect. Green has a calming effect. Okay, black and white and everything has effects. So when you go through this and you start seeing the palette change, right? And let me show you. I've done a lot of research on this, right? This right here, this is actually an IKEA kitchen you can buy. You too could have this gray and white beauty. Now, there's a plant in there. Okay, your HOA may not approve of the plant because you're exceeding your tonal, saturation. All right, but still, this is what we call a modern kitchen. All right. So modern kitchens, tend to go to grays and blacks and whites. Right. If there is any color, it's usually the appliance. About 10, 15 years ago, everybody was getting the color. Every appliance on the countertop would have been a bold primary color. Usually, if you were smart, you started with the KitchenAid, because everybody should have a KitchenAid in their house. Right. Outside of a stove and pots and pans, the first thing you should get is a KitchenAid, then the microwave. All right, but still. So, but this new gray is everything that's coming out there. And you might ask yourself, hey, house anthropology, where does this come from? Where does this grayish monstrosity come from? Well, it came from your betters, the rich. All right, hear me out. At a certain point, luxury design houses, all right, became very white, very sterile. All right. When Robin Leach went out there talking about the lifestyles of the rich and famous, all right, he was showing you these really super white, really super monochrome houses. And what happens, all right, is people, much like the fashion industry, okay, they start aping the designs that they see, which is the new trendy stuff. Right? And by going into that, you start seeing it percolate down until you can get this, all right, with a palette scheme that 10 years ago would have been in a Hollywood mansion. You can get this in your own 5,000, 500,000 4-2 two-car garage in Chandler for not a lot of money. Trust me, I've seen a lot of these kitchens lately, just like this. All right. Some of them have really cool features, self-closing drawers and whatnot and stuff like that. And, the deep sink and everything, but they're very, very grayish. And what I find interesting is that when you come into a place like this, and let's say you have dark hardwood cabinets, all right, people don't like it. They're not liking the dark hardwood. Personally, I love it, right? But there's a thing for that. So what do these colors do for you? All right. Okay. Oh, one other thing I want to. Okay. So what do these colors do for you? All right. Now you use color psychology, color theory. Okay. And there's a book out there that you can look in. That's called Color Psychology and Color Therapy by Faber Baron, Birron. God, I can't read my own handwriting. All right. He did like a meta study of all of these other little studies and started going, hey, let's talk color. Black. Black is power. Black is authority. Black is opulence. All right. Black's a good color. All right. But it also delineates loss of control and passivity. Maybe there's a reason why the Nazis were really into black on their dress uniforms. Just saying. All right. So, then you see whites. Okay. What are whites? All right. White is actually all colors at the same time. All right, back to your biology class, or actually that's more science class, but we'll deal with that later. Okay, but white can bring a sense of disassociation. It can bring a sense of disempowerment. All right, institutions where you want to keep people sedate. You tend to want to go to the white, okay, because you want to keep them in their box. In their little white I love me jacket. All right. And the other thing with the grays can signal, all right, passivity. It can signal lack of motivation. All right. So here we go. You sit in your house and it's this house is making you passive. This house is making you sedate. This right here. Now, if I wanted to flip it and steelman this, I'd say this is a calming presence. All right. So is a lot of things that are not good for you. All right. Being calm's cool. All right. But being calmed might not be so much. So when we have this, now let's take it the next step now and start talking about some other biology with it. It literally takes less brain power to process a picture like this than, let's say, this kitchen. All right, because this kitchen, that's traumatic. Okay, this is the Dorado Homes Old Glory interior design. Okay, God bless the 60s. Wow. All right. I mean, to our eyes, our modern eyes, that is incredibly jarring. And that might be more red than you see in your entire freaking week in one image. We obviously would not want to go this route today. That's a bit on the extreme side. But those bold, now by today's standards, garish colors, right? I mean, this is the decade that put people on the moon. All right. This one right here. What has this decade done so far? Okay, seriously, think about it. You take out Elon Musk, what the hell have we done this decade? Just saying. All right, so the other things about this palette, okay, and this thing is that whites and grays tend to disrupt your circadian rhythm. What that means to you kids at home, it means it makes it harder to go to sleep and wake up in the morning. All right, they have found that brighter, bolder colors help regulate your circadian rhythm. How cool is that? Now, don't have to believe me. I'm not going to sit here and put every little link to every scientific study and stuff that the author was referencing in it. You can go find him. And no, I'm not linking to him. All right. So the good citizen. All right. But so you got disruptive circadian rhythms. You have a passive, very, I almost want to say defeatist. And then we look at your way people are wandering around today and our current, psychology problems, right? How many disaffected people are sitting there wandering through life? Just not happy with life. They're just fine. They're leaving their little gray house and getting in their little gray car. Because even the cars nowadays are monochrome. Okay? These are the most common popular car colors chart you can find from 2023 to 2024. They're white, gray, black, blue. That's your first color, but even then they oversaturate the blue so as to look black. Look at my car. At least when I bought it, it's fading out. Silver, first hint of color, real color, is red. 5%. That's 1 out of 20 cars out there. Actually has any kind of color. The next one is beige or gold at 2%. That's 1 out of every 50. And for my very special listener who actually sent me this, she actually has an orange car. All right, so congratulations, you're 1 out of 200. All right, even our cars are boring. And we'll have a whole conversation about that, but this isn't a car show. But let's look at the palettes of the 1960 Chevrolet colors. All right, greens, blues, oranges. All right, no yellows though. How weird. Okay, closest you have to yellow is on there. But you have almost all the primary colors in various trim packages. All right. Vibrant. That's the word we're talking about. Right. 1960s. People on the moon. All right. And if you're thinking, oh, wow, the 60s wasn't all that great. Well, hey, you know what? All these other things you like. All right. Take out Vietnam. Okay. But civil rights, all that kind of stuff came out of the 60s. Right. It was a dynamic time. Things were changing. Things were happening. This is a hyper-passive time. All right. The things that we get worked up about this, all right, except for like the last couple of weeks, all right, hey, we got a war going on. But, mundane data. When's the last time you saw a movie you were excited about? What was the palette scheme on that? All right. I saw one, but it had music in it. Okay. And the only people I told to go watch the movie were karaoke people, like actual singers. Like, you need to see this. If you sing, you need to see this movie. Right? but it had nothing to do with the palette, had nothing to do with anything else. And if you took the music out of it, I would not have watched it. Like, seriously. Dead. So, how do we get into this space right here? Okay, with these really super, no color, no life, black, white, and gray space. Now, the author, he's like it's a conspiracy to make the populace more sedate, so Big Epstein, or whoever the hell he's calling about, can help easily more manipulate you. And of course, they went to all the millionaires and billionaires and got them to design their houses that they live in to look like this, so they could turn around and then get Home and Garden television to promote that style that gets this IKEA package. All right, one too many jumps, okay, for me to follow. So I'll give you one. Ray's theory. People who have incredibly overly hectic lives. All right. And yes, a lot of millionaires and billionaires, especially celebrities, have incredibly hectic lives. And to be able to get to the point where you're a celebrity, or whether or not it's a music celebrity, movie celebrity, you have to be functioning at like a higher energy state than your average person. Right? You need to be able to go and sit at the recording studio for 4 or 5 hours, a day, doing different tracks, getting them all together, promoting yourself, rehearsing, practicing. You need to be working your lines. You need to be going to improv classes. You need to be going to every possible, what are those things called? Hey, I want to be an actor for this part. Audition, every possible audition out there. You need to hustle, right? If you're going to make it to that, all right? If you are going to start a startup, you have to have a certain kind of freaking madness, a certain kind of crazy going on, right? So your brain is going 90 miles an hour all the freaking time. So being able to go home and zero your brain out because there's nothing going on here. That might be the response. Why do I like this? Because when I walk into this room, there's nothing stimulating me any farther except what I carried into the room. Now, strangely enough, I really, really like minimalist, simplistic houses. I really do. I like to walk in a room and have nothing in that room but then what I carried in with me. All right. But I'm not a normal person. I think you guys have figured that out by now. All right. So, but these individuals who are coming in, yeah, maybe they just want the completely freaking zeroed out space in the zeroed out room because they just need to stop moving for a few minutes, and that becomes their sanctuary. All right. But for other people, on the other end of the energy spectrum, okay, I'm not calling you guys lazy, but you guys are the ones with only 3 browser windows going at any one time, and one of them is something that happened to you back in high school that you're still ruminating about. All right. For other people, you zero anything out. Well, guess what? Now they're in that space, and all they can do is ruminate about what happened to them in high school. So that might actually be the reason why we see this design happen. I think that's just as valid a theory as the author's theory of them manipulating the populace. All right. I think people who just operate at a certain level need certain different design. Right? Everybody's design, everybody's personal preference is unique and individual to them. If you find that you're liking whatever the new thing is, and then next week you see a magazine article and suddenly you like that, well, you're pretty much an NPC. Literally. Okay? So, become a player character. Develop a like. Develop something that you like. Right? So, wanted to wrap this up with a last little bit from, who honestly, I should give her like co-writing credits on this thing. But what she mentioned is that if you want to find your palette, you need to find your favorite painting and pick the colors out of that. That is going to be your palette. That is the best advice I have ever heard. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to be repeating that until I find something better. Just like I repeat everything until I find something better. But right now, find out what your favorite painting is. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's your palette. Okay, you can bring a room together around a picture. All right, that's So, and think about what you're doing to yourself. Look at your space right now. Now, if you're living with somebody, a spouse, family, all right, whatever, you don't have as much impact on your space as you might like. Right? I seriously think that creates serious stressors in people. Okay. I might just be projecting, but I am projecting, but it doesn't mean I'm not wrong. All right. I've over and over and over again had people talk to me, usually transitioning into a space, moving in with a girlfriend, getting married, moving in together, whatever the whole thing is that little bit of tension that happens in there because they don't have their own defined space. A space that they can go in and the only thing in that room is them. Like I was talking about earlier. Their stuff, their things. This is important. This is why I always encourage people, if you're moving in together, don't move in with them and they don't move in with you. You two move into something else together. Right? Because otherwise it's always going to be the first person in their space. Right? And you're going to be dealing with their beige monstrosity. All right, their various colors. But honestly, they have bright red KitchenAids. They're a winner. Might as well put a ring on that. So, what does this mean to you, the lister? I really, really hope that you guys sort of take this to heart and start looking around your own personal spaces and realize, is my palette, is the interior, is my living space making me sick, making me unwell, making me less than optimal? Right? It's like one of the few things you have control of your life, hopefully, is your living space. Your house is your fortress of solitude. It is your base of operations. It needs to be welcoming and warm, and the place that you go to, it is your cave you crawl back to lick your wounds, right? And if it's not comfortable for you, well, then you need to call me and I'll get you another one, all right? You didn't even have a pool. God, that was the worst segue I've ever done in my life. Okay, so we're not going to try it. Watch your children pets around the water. Do not drive in anything flooded. Work your circles. Make your house pretty. Listen to Jordan Peterson. Make one room in your house beautiful and start from there. And if you want other key decorating tips, instead of including getting a whole new house to decorate, call me. Talk to you guys later. You have a great day.